Chapter 17 Buses stroke Metropolis. While my personal life was going from strength to strength, my work life was not. I was not enjoying Daytona anymore, but I still had to go to work. I sat on the bus, my favourite tunes on, smiled as I went over Blackfriars Bridge. Once off the bus, my walk to work was long enough for me to enjoy a couple of cigarettes, getting my nicotine fix to keep me going. As I walked, I'd hear the roar of my workmates' motorbikes as they made their way in. I got into work and started browsing the internet. I stumbled across a job advert for bus drivers in London. This was appealing, as it would get me out of Daytona. I would miss my friends, especially Princess, but I'd be away from motorbikes. I telephoned the number in the advert and asked for an application form. I felt quite happy and pleased. Just asking for a form seemed like a major achievement. I told Princess about the job, and his view was that maybe I just needed to be away from bikes, which coincided with mine. He didn't comment on the bus driving part though. After I sent the form away, I only told a couple of people at work. I didn't want too many people to know just in case I didn't get the job. Mum wasn't overly happy about me being a bus driver, but she didn't tell me not to apply, as she didn't want to put me off the job or finding my own path. Jane was very supportive, saying, "I think it's the best if it's getting you down at Daytona." I was happy to find out that my application and medical had been approved by Stagecoach, the bus company. All I needed was a start date. It wasn't long before I received my letter with my start date for training. I needed to have a PSV licence to legally drive a bus. I was excited for the future, but at the same time sad at leaving Daytona. They had really helped me out, taking me back after the accident, especially as I had technically quit so I could go to Spain. My mum's face said more than she did about the bus driving. She was not happy about it, but she'd let me choose my own path. At Alan's house, his mum said how Alan's dad Steve and herself met on the buses. She made it sound like a lot of fun, very different from a normal office or shop job. Alan spoke about how much time his job was taking up, but he seemed happy with his job and life. I was happy with him. He was surprised that I was leaving Daytona for the buses, but wished me luck. Like Mum, he didn't like the idea, but he kept his opinion to himself. He knew it wasn't really for me, and maybe deep down so did I. My leaving drinks for Daytona were duly arrived, and among the presents I got was a DVD box set of the classic comedy series On the Buses. It made me laugh. I realised that I'd been with Daytona for 4 years now. I was nervous. My colleagues were like family, and I was leaving them. I had a few days before I started my PSV training, so me and Jane decided to spend the weekend at her mum's caravan. It was on a caravan park outside London. Jane had often talked about it and said how relaxing it was there. It took just over an hour to drive there. The site had some arcades, a few shops, a couple of chip shops too. The caravan was quite big inside, but I felt uncomfortable, so I calmed myself outside with a cigarette. Jane had learned how to read my moods quite accurately and knew that a low moment would follow the uncomfortableness. She readied a cup of tea for me. It took me about 20 minutes to come out of my low moment, but Jane was patient with me. Once it was gone, we could really enjoy the time we had together, and we did. I passed my 2-week PSV training and soon got out on the road for my very short-lived career as a bus driver on the 136 bus route. My short-term memory was still giving me problems. I genuinely struggled to remember the different routes. I was pushing myself to learn instead of slowly taking the information in. I rushed trying to learn too much at once, and my confidence suffered. Bus driving was not for me. So 3 days into my bus driving career, I quit. The day I quit, I was meant to be on an early shift, so I had the whole day in front of me. I decided to visit London's West End. I'll go there as a kid to waste time, window shop, generally hang around. Because my head injury had knocked me back a few years, I decided to visit some of my old haunts. I even treated myself to lunch in Debenham's department store. Back in 1992, I would often have lunch there while my mum had her haircut in the store saloon. It was nice to reminisce. As I waited at the bus stop for the number 12 bus back to Peckham, I noticed that the bus approaching was at 88. I had the strongest urge to jump on the bus. I did. Fate was shouting at me very loudly indeed. I'd been sitting on the bus for about 20 minutes when I realised that I recognised the area it was in. It was near a motorbike shop I used to go to, a place called Metropolis Motorcycles. I hadn't been there for a few years, but I knew some people who worked there, so I got off the bus to see if they still worked there. I walked in the door, and yes, I recognised someone. Her name was Dee, and I'd known her for about 3 years. We weren't close, but knew each other well enough to say hello. So we did. Hello, and she asked what I was doing nowadays. She already knew that I'd had a bad accident. The biker's grapevine is a speedy bearer of gossip and news, and seemingly generally concerned when I said that I'd just quit my job. She then added that Metropolis was looking for someone in their clothing department, and that she could speak to the boss. Fate, it seems, had directed me back to the motorbike and accessory showroom. The owner was a man called Ian. He called me through to his office. We spoke for a minute or two. I could tell that he seemed genuinely impressed with me and seemed excited about having me as his staff. I agreed to start work the following Monday. He called out to get one of the shop managers called Andy and asked him to get me some uniform ready for Monday. I was excited when I left. I was also reliving the memories coming into the shop at Sparks. They were of me, Alan and Jamie, going there on our scooters, drooling over the big bikes. A big red Caddy 916 stood out in my memory. Some not so nice memories came back too. I felt a rush of anger at the thought of an old friend who had taken advantage of me before the accident. It took a while to calm down from that. My parents were unsure if getting back into the bike industry was such a good idea, but they agreed that it was better for me than the buses. They also said that I was lucky to have got another job so quickly, and at least it got me out of the house and I was earning a wage. Jane was not totally surprised that I'd quit my job driving the buses, but was not happy for me getting the job at Metropolis so quickly. She did suspect that I'd known in advance about the Metropolis vacancy and that I'd wangled it, but I hadn't. It was fate again. I didn't always agree with the path fate chose for me. Sunday night was soon there. I was starting to have doubts about working at Metropolis. I was even beginning to wonder if I was even employable. It all would happen so quickly that I hadn't even had time to think about it, and all too soon it was Monday morning. As I walked to the bus stop, I was coming up with excuses why I wouldn't work there. I was scared of the motorbikes. I was unemployable. It was too quick. The thoughts whizzed around, and I even missed my stop. But I thought of Jane. Now I wanted to be better for her, a better person, a better fiance. So I got my arse in gear, got off the bus, sparked up a cigarette. The tobacco calmed me. I walked to Metropolis. Bob, R.I.P., sales manager, was outside. He was joking with another salesman as they pushed the motorbikes into the shop's frontage for display. He saw that I looked nervous and uncomfortable and cracked a few jokes about my ease. It worked. I relaxed and lit another cigarette. Don't worry, Bob smiled. The ball and chain are removed for cigarette breaks. I quickly retorted, I have to chain smoke. It takes the smell of vodka off my breath. I actually giggled and thought, at least I'll get my nicotine fixes. I went to the clothing department. I was the first person there for a couple of minutes, stood there looking a bit lost and lonely until Dee came in. She looked cold, but she'd just come in on her boyfriend's motorbike. She gave me a key to the staff room and said to make myself a drink while she went and got changed. I felt instantly comfortable, which was nice. I liked being part of a team. Andy came in. He was the manager, clothing department, and would be my boss. He quickly explained a few bits to me, and I was ready to go. Metropolis wasn't only a motorbike and accessory shop. It had a riding school attached. While they were waiting for their lesson, a group of students came in for a look around. Although I felt nervous, I was able to advise them on different types of motorbike gloves. The rest of the day passed quickly. I took the lead sales role while Dee did the weekly stock check and Andy did some paperwork and other managerial work. By lunchtime, I'd already sold quite a bit, as if I'd been in sales for years. At the end of the day, Andy congratulated me on an excellent first day and said he looked forward to seeing me the next day. My second day at Metropolis was nearly my very last. I had woken up with a start. I didn't know what sparked my sudden awakening, but it didn't bode well for the day. As I walked up to Metropolis, I realised I couldn't cope with working there. I'd been stupid, I pushed myself too hard. I hadn't listened to the doctors or my parents or Jane. I tried too much. Bob was outside the shop and called a greeting over to me. I didn't reply. I just carried on walking. As I walked further away from Metropolis, I felt like the weight of responsibility was lifted from my shoulders. I knew I was letting people down, and with that realisation, all the dark and dangerous thoughts flooded back to me. I was a failure as a person, a waste of space. I should have died in that accident. Dad was still at home when I walked into the house. "Why aren't you at work?" he asked me as I broke down, sobbing and crying that I couldn't cope with the pressure of life. Dad just held me as I cried. He tried talking to me, but nothing was getting through to me. As much as I loved my dad, there were some things that he couldn't deal with, and an overly emotional son was one of them. He phoned Mum asking her to come home from work. Mum's work was close to the house, so she arrived within a couple of minutes. They talked briefly about how I needed to relearn controlling my emotional responses. Dad had a hard time understanding some of it, but he couldn't stay long as he had to work. Mum being a self-employed cabbie, Dad had to leave for work, whereas Mum had more flexibility and understanding boss. Mum sat with me for about half an hour, reassuring me that what I felt and my panic was normal for someone with my injury. By the end of the day, I decided that Metropolis was not for me. I just sad at letting everyone else, especially Jane, down when we spoke on the phone that night. I didn't tell her what had happened, as I didn't want her to worry. I just made up some stuff about the day. Silly, I know. Wednesday morning arrived too quickly. I gathered my uniform up, headed to Metropolis, eager to hand it all over, quit and get back to the safety of my home. Across the road from the shop was a small cafe. I decided to get a hot chocolate before going in. The man at the counter recognised me from Monday and asked if I was new at Metropolis. I just nodded before leaving my drink. I really didn't want to get caught up with conversation with anyone. Bob was pushing the bikes out for display on the pavement again. He waved at me and jokingly said, "Are you sure it's not your day off today?" He thought that yesterday I'd accidentally come in on my day off. I just smiled and muttered something non-committal before going in, heading to Ian's office. I didn't take the route through the clothing department. I was too embarrassed. When I got to Ian's office, he was on the phone, but Ian indicated that I should take a seat. It felt like being back at a headmaster's office in school. He finished his call, then turned to me and asked what had happened yesterday. His concern was evident to me. I explained that I wasn't ready for work yet, that the pressure was too much, and I was scared at the thought of eventually selling motorbikes. Ian listened as I spoke, letting all my fears out. He didn't interrupt me, he just listened. When I finished saying what I had to say, Ian replied, saying that he'd watched me and that I was a natural salesperson. He added that I'd fit in well into the clothing department team and that I had excellent communication skills and was able to adapt to individual customers' needs. My confidence rose slightly. I didn't think I'd done that well, or that Ian had noticed me. He continued that he thought I'd make an excellent bike salesman, but he understood if I didn't want that role. Ian's next sentence left me gobsmacked. He said I could stay working in the clothing department until I found a job that was better suited for me. I'd not expected that at all. While I was reading from that, Ian added that I could take time off if I needed to do any training courses and job interviews, as it was easier to get a new job while holding down a job already. How could I say no to this? I didn't think it was possible for any company to be more accommodating of my needs. Ian said he'd give me a few minutes to consider my offer. I was glad of this, as half of me was screaming to run away and hide at home, the other half of me that I couldn't hide forever, and that this was an amazing opportunity. While I contemplated the offer, Ian called Andy, my manager. Yesterday had been Andy's day off, so he'd only just found out about me not showing up yesterday. To say he was surprised was an understatement. Ian and Andy quietly talked while I contemplated my future. I heard Ian ask Andy what he thought of my prospects. Andy replied I'd shown great potential and had suggested changes to the returns process, which had already been implemented. I thought about the offer Ian had made for me. How on earth could I turn it down? Ian walked back over to me. So, he said, giving you everything that you've asked for and helping you with future references, do you think you could keep earning me money? After everything he'd done to accommodate me, there was only one reply I could give. Yes, I said. This was a big step for me and really helped my recovery and rehabilitation. As the next few months passed, I found work easier, enjoying my time at Metropolis. I still had the low moments, but they were manageable. I didn't even really look for other work, as I was happy working in the clothing department.